Ameshia, I know you heard what I said up top. Do I have it wrong that there is still a chance, at a minimum, that it's not Harris because there are people who wanted Biden out who don't want Harris in?
I mean, that's really frustrating. There are certain people who, as we saw today, who have not come out and endorsed, who are actively, they have their own behind the scenes campaign against Kamala Harris as well. I think that part of this is folks who naturally want to get rid of the entire ticket, Biden and Harris, not just Joe Biden. The other part, I think, is individuals who, without any real supporting evidence, are saying that Kamala Harris cannot defeat Donald Trump in November. And I think that for many of those individuals, having a Black woman at the highest seat of power, even though she has been vice president, is something that scares the hell out of them, and they don't want to see her rise to that occasion. That's really frustrating as a Black woman watching this happen. But I am, quite frankly, there's a lot of stuff that I think needs to be uncovered here, because for a party that stands by and has stood by diversity and has stood for civil rights and has stood for equity, to have people within it who, whether they want to say it out loud or not, simply do not want to see a Black woman at the top of the ticket, that sends a message to Black voters as well, who again are the largest base of the Democratic Party when it comes to a consistent voting bloc.
Listen, you make a compelling case. I don't know, Hank, how they go past Harris, and not for bad reason, for good reason. She's a sitting VP. Yes, she's a Black woman, but U.S. Senator, Attorney General, tough record, right? Was controversial, but tough.
Yep.
And she's the only one who can take the purse, right? Can the Biden-Harris campaign transfer that money to somebody else?
Well, I think she's the nominee for the Democrats. The question is, who's the vice presidential nominee? If I had to bet today, that person will come from a state among the 6 or so that the Democrats can't seem to be in win, or they're in trouble in: Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, Arizona, Nevada, and I'm missing one, but that's the problem. So can she win in those states? No, she might not be able to win, but the Democrats need somebody who can win. Probably, if I had to think about it, let's see, presidents, vice presidents, a lot of them war heroes and or governors, but war heroes, right? So who you have? You got somebody like Kelly in Arizona, the senator. He's not a war hero, but he's an astronaut. He served in the service. His wife was nearly murdered by a lunatic with a gun. He's got a very good story to tell. It's in a targeted state. He balances the ticket out in many ways. Shapiro from Pennsylvania, too soon, too young. And Trump is going to have an edge there because of the near assassination. But the good news for the Democrats is Donald Trump became the old Donald Trump this afternoon in his response to Joe Biden leaving, when calling him the worst president. You noted this, Chris, in the intro, and saying crazy things all over again. So that's good news for Democrats, is they have Donald Trump. Bad news for Democrats is they have Democrats, because it's no longer a political party. It's a bunch of factions that are beating each other up every day on who knows what occasion and for what reason.
Hank Sheinkopf, are you willing to admit that having a Black woman and a Jewish man would be too much for America on one ticket?
I'm willing to admit that. I mean, we've gone a long way in a very short period of time, but brother, that ain't going to work. I mean, let's be honest about it. That's too much already. You know, anti-Semitism is a wonderful thing. It kind of meets in the same place between the left and the right. You know, it's one of them things, and it's called the fatal embrace. Gets to the bottom. We have extreme operations in both parties. Question is, you can't elect Joe Biden anymore, even if you were on the ticket. Why? Because the Democrat Party is not the same Democratic Party that Joe Biden got into. It's much more factionalized. It's younger, right, and you need change. So Kamala Harris represents the change. Change takes time.
I hate that a Black woman and a Jewish man would be something that people would have to think about. It bothers me, but I can't disagree with you either.
Hold on, Chris. It should, because anti-Catholicism was a staple of American politics going right through the 70s in this country. It's not new. And it was the disgrace, and we live with those biases as part of our politics.
No, listen, you're totally right. Ameshia, I tell a story that happens to be true, which makes it even more funny. My father, near the end of his life, was told a story about me being seen as a media fixture and an example of white privilege. And my father heard this, and he went, "Hot damn, we made it. Christopher's a white guy." Because he had always been, called a swarthy ethnic and all of this mob stuff, so.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.